Hello, all you buffer timey-wimers out there. We're here to talk about the first episode of Season 3 of Picard. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. We'll go around and introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Dell. I'm not cool enough to have a YouTube because my opinions are the real ones no one cares about.
Yeah. What's up, my know-it-all, Mr. Know-it-all. I do have a YouTube channel where I review Star Trek and some other things and have fun in general, but I'm really excited to talk about this episode, so let's go.
Howdy,
My name's
everybody.
and-
I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry. That was wrong. Go ahead, buddy, please.
I am Scott of the YouTube channel Opinions No One Cares About. Yeah, that's all I'm going with.
He's on brand. He's on brand.
I'm Fleet Admiral Eve Zellick from Starfleet Canada and head of Section 31.
Nice. Let's go.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Robbie Sherman of Conversations with Robbie Sherman. I'm going to be getting the Freaks podcast together soon, and we're going to be having a subcast on the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat coming up.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
can't wait to
Dustin's
see
going
that.
to be joining me for that. If I
Yeah,
can find
thank
your
you.
episode.
Thanks for having me for that. That was a fun thing that we did. Anyway,
Yeah, I had a great time.
what's the fun thing that we are talking about this week? It's a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of small, frustrating moments.
Frustrating people.
I'm going to start us off with just probably the most banger of a question. Do you think Picard will make it out of season 3 alive? Because for me, there was a lot of... It felt like there was some finality to what he was saying to Laris. Even though it was left on this hopeful note of, oh, I'm going to meet you on this bar, and we're going to have drinks at the sunset. It's going to be beautiful.
I feel like
don't think it's
they're
gonna
painting
happen.
the final scene. The final scene is going to be her waiting at that bar for the sunset by herself. You know what I mean? Like,
Didn't he pull this with another one of his little love things? Where they were supposed to meet in Paris and then he never showed up?
This is going to turn into a Dark Knight Returns situation, isn't it?
I think he's going to not make it out alive because, I mean, that's also a way for them to end that part of the franchise because that's what they did with Kirk. So, and Cisco's off, being a prophet. So, I mean, they seem to have a thing for let's just kill them off so that way they can't be used again.
Very true.
Take that toy out of the toy box.
Hey, a good advantage Star Trek has over the Marvel Universe is that Star Trek knows when people need to stay dead. Let me tell you.
True story. And you're done.
Except for Spock.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a
You got
black
that
mountain
right.
to climb for somebody.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was because Leonard Nimoy didn't want to continue with the movies, as far as I know. And then when the test audience saw the screening of Wrath of Khan, they said everyone in the test audience left like it was a bloody funeral, and they were so depressed that the only way they could bring it back was to, let's reincarnate Spock.
That's great. And then he's literally the last man standing in terms of doing Star Trek.
Yeah.
Doing the old it's like he's still holding it down. You're like, man, I can't get out of this role.
Well, he had a love-hate thing with that role, as far as I know.
No, yeah, same. He told.
Very similar to Brent Spiner now.
Yeah.
Oh my
I was
God.
going to say, like, Denise Crosby also kind of went through the same thing.
Let me tell you, catching up on season 2, Brent Spiner was one of my favorite parts of that. That was so awesome. He's good in that role.
Brent Spiner's bringing his angry old man energy. That's for sure.
Oh, I dig it.
I love it.
How do you guys...
Sorry.
Here's a question we didn't even have on the list, but that brings us to, we know we're going to see Lord this season.
Yeah.
Does anybody think that now that the emotion chip was taken out of him, I mean, clearly he's still got some problems as the prototype of the model, but that maybe he's a good guy now?
God, no.
No.
No way.
Nope.
Laura's so dirty. It's not even funny.
Laura,
I do think... Oh, go ahead, Eve.
You'd have to reprogram Laura to make him good.
No kidding. For real.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, he's been potentially off for 20 years or 30 at this point. We don't
I
even
don't know. I think he was reactivated at some point. I bet you Section 31 had something to do with it.
I think one of my big guesses about the whole episode is that I think Lore is the texter, the secret texter of doom with Raffi.
Oh, bro.
Let's
That's-
just jump
Somebody
down
asked
to that
online.
question. We had the question, who is Raffi talking to? The first time I saw it, I thought she was talking to an AI.
Yeah.
And then I watched some other reviews, and then I actually captioned it, and okay, she's talking to her handler. So she's talking to a real person. Some of the other ideas thrown around were Worf.
I've heard that
Maybe.
one. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
But
He does show up in that one trailer.
I mean, we know he's going to show up.
I wouldn't think Worf, though, because covert ops and stuff like that is not a Worf thing. I mean, Klingons don't like that kind of stuff.
But he's a pacifist now. We don't know anything about where his character or morals or ethics lie.
He might be a pacifist, but to be Worf, he still has to be obsessed with being Klingon. And
There you go.
it's not Klingon culture to do things in the shadows. Because that was something that that's why Grilka needed Quark's help, because Klingons do everything out in the open, and the whole money thing was happening in the shadows, which is not a Klingon thing. And Klingons and covert ops, I don't think so. It just doesn't fit with Worf.
Also, remember, I think that his definition of pacifist may be a little more liberal than ours. I feel like he's pacifist for who Worf is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. So whereas Worf before was always like, do you want me to fire on him? And he's like, calm down, easy. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's stuck in my craw, so I'm just gonna say it and move on. Worf was doing undercover work when he went, or at least wet work, when he went to the village where he thought his dad was. I don't know the name of the episode. Where he thought his dad was, and it was a bunch of Klingons and Romulans living together.
Yes.
Oh, damn it.
That's fair.
I think that was definitely like an undercover op. Maybe he wasn't like posing as someone else, but he was doing it to be surreptitious.
Right.
He doesn't succeed at being surreptitious,
Yeah.
but that's what he's going for.
I have to wonder if pacifist just means he's got his temper under control for a change.
Oh yeah.
Could be.
I mean, I always think it's too bad that he doesn't meet the Bajoran from Lower Decks who's always wanting to nuke the warp core, because those two, I could see those two sharing, a good mug of blood wine and talking about glorious battles.
So much.
Please let him detonate the warp core. Please let him detonate the warp core.
That's awesome. Oh my God! It's a real quick sidebar, Vass. But I just remembered my wife last week was watching the show, and she starts roarously laughing, just ha. I look over. It's the first time you put up the shot of Boimler. I'm like, really? And she goes, "That's hilarious." I was like, I'll tell them. I'll tell them. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted you to know.
Already miss Cambot this week.
I have to say this because it's bothering me. What the F is with the Titan? It's not the same ship.
Come on.
Yeah. This is a refit. I mean, when we first saw it, it's like, okay, we're getting a Titan A. They built a new ship. It's kind of 100 years out of date, smashing Constitution hull into a Excelsior drive section.
Yeah, it doesn't like.
Yeah.
What part of it is the same?
It's almost like it's not really a retrofit at that point. It's more like, they rebuilt it and just kept the name.
Redesign.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in Lower Decks, it's Luna class. I'm like, why isn't it just a Luna class? You can do that.
Yeah, because when Riker said, hello, beautiful, I'm thinking, okay, it's the Titan. And then I saw it and I'm like, what? That's not the Titan.
This is not the ship porn I wanted.
Yeah. This is not the ship you are looking for.
We did get a lot of that in this episode, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, bribing my dog.
Are they calling it the Neo Constitution class?
Yeah.
Call it what you want. It ain't the Titan.
Oh, totally.
I don't know. If I lived in the future, I would have learned my lesson and named nothing Neo. Because something's going to be even more Neo after that.
Right.
Yeah.
The triple Neo Constitution class.
I do like to call the Enterprise
flip the
that
ship
one.
upside down?
Hmm?
Sorry, I have the Titan in front of me versus the one that's I'm like.
I had a comparison shot to show, but
Oh, this looks like a. He is so upset about Cambot. He's like, all that show prep, just throwing it away. It's all you just
117 photos for nothing.
it's all good, man. Next time, just send him to me. I'll put him up here. And
I
just-
said, I said in our chat a few days ago to the gang that if you put the Titan as we know it versus this Titan in a flip book alternating, you'd have a Titan flapping its wings.
Its wings.
Oh my God, totally.
That'd be a great gift.
Because it's not the Titan.
The thing is, it couldn't be. You would need a radical amount of refit to do that. I mean, it's a rebuild.
Right. It's so much easier to just build a new ship at that point
Literally.
than to do that much of re-engineering.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing with the Cerritos where, okay, we gave you some different plating, maybe a newer class in a cell when you tear everything else apart, but it's still essentially the same ship. I can't find one thing. I looked at this from multiple angles of the Titan and Titan A, and there's not one thing. At first I was like, oh, the deflector. No, really not even the deflector.
No.
Yeah, I'm not really mechanically. I just wanted to say I'm not mechanically minded in that way, so I don't really know stuff like that a lot of the time. I was just enjoying the cinematography of it and the way they filmed everything. I thought.
Bro. Because one thing Star Trek does, I said this to Mrs. Know-It-All. I said, "Boy, they luxuriate in their ship shots, man." It's because you see, you're going, hang on. I had a problem with it in Kirk's time. Why are you guys not transporting up to the ship? Because you wanted to have a reason to just show me this beautiful, this starship porn. Okay, it was just like, let's go look. Ooh.
Well, at least here though,
I would suppose half of what I love about Star Trek, which is just watching like ships move across luxurious lighting.
Yeah. And this whole thing about them getting on the Titan was because they needed to get somewhere. They were already in a shuttlecraft on the way to the Titan.
Totally.
It's like, I'm just going to turn this around and go somewhere else. Okay.
Totally. 100%.
But at least with this one,
they didn't have guys
because they were in the shuttle because they were trying to be, sneaky about it. If they had transported up, they would have had to schedule the transport. I mean, if they get in the shuttle and they just contact the Titan and like, oh, hey, it's Picard and Riker and we're coming aboard, surprise inspection, they're not going to say too much about it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I do like that the Enterprise D were called the fat ones.
That's awesome.
What about, you mean the fat ones? No one wants those.
Yeah, I love Riker. I love Riker reacting like he's the member of an old band whose hit came on the jukebox and no one knows who it is at all.
Yep, exactly
like
right.
Scotty and Relics. Right down to the leave the bottle.
It's not great people to do.
So what do we think about Picard potentially having a son? Is this too cliche and been too overdone in movies and television?
What, Picard having sons?
Has he already possibly had a son?
So my issue with it is not that he may have one. My issue with it is what you just said, which is that this feels very contrived. Oh, because they're hitting hard. We haven't seen her in 20 years. Why did she cut off all contact? Why did no one talk to us? This and that. Like, you're hitting hard the fact that nobody's had this character in their mind for this long, and all of a sudden you have to find a reason or excuse for her not to have been around to add whatever your thing is. And so it just feels kind of MacGuffin-y as well. Like, come on, guys, really? But I mean, I'm here for it. I'm like, whatever. They'll probably make me like him.
My hope, against hope, with the Star Trek writers, is that the plotline is really Wesley is Picard's son.
Yeah.
And this guy is a total, false MacGuffin. He makes the most obvious answer, and so that's why I think that's not the answer.
I've often thought Wesley was Picard's son, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's been a fan theory for quite a while.
Frankly, if he is, I honestly don't care. That just seems like not unless they find a way to work that type of thing into the plot and make it interesting in a way that makes me want to follow that, then I just don't really care, because I think a lot of times we get those type of things and we never have the emotional moments to back them up the way they need to be. Plus, I'm getting a little burnt out on daddy issues in TV shows right now. I've been watching a few things that are just nothing but like daddy troubles. Yeah, it's frustrating.
It doesn't. It feels a little too much like with Kirk. It made sense that he had a son in the movies. I mean,
he had a chick in every port. Picard, he only bangs once a decade.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Picard gets lucky less than a Vulcan. Like
he literally is like, he's like, it's time.
He goes to Risa and he's reading books. I mean,
totally. No, for real. That's the truth. That's the real truth.
Like, with Kirk, I mean, they had to kill off everyone he slept with by the end of the episode just so he wouldn't have kids all over the galaxy. But because if you notice, every time he sleeps with someone, they die.
Oh yeah.
But him having a son.
Can you imagine what it must be like just sitting around for Picard reading antique books all the time?
I just can't see Picard having a son he didn't know about. It just doesn't fit to me. There's got to be something else.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of the implication? Forgive me if I'm suddenly commandeering the steering wheel. What do you think of the implication about the Riker and because in that with the whole thing like when they're meeting in the bar and Riker's like, oh yeah, I'm sure my daughter and Deanna would be happy to not have me around right now. Like I'm like, what is that about, dude? Why you gonna ruin my fairy tale that you guys lived happily ever after? Stop it.
But they're bringing Worf back. They're bringing Worf back. There's gonna have to be some acknowledgement somewhere.
Yep.
A lot of all good things Q's alternate future have come to pass so far.
It's true.
Yeah, and Deanna.
You know, I just want to say I think Riker has been drinking a little too hard lately. I mean, he kept that whole bottle. He's a little bit older. He's probably saying some stuff he shouldn't when he's getting drunk. Yeah, I would imagine that's part of the problem too.
That's why he had to pee so much later.
Oh yes, he needs to calm down. Oh, by the way, they got put in like cadet bunks. Somebody could have been moved around for an admiral. Like that was a definite power play.
Well, the whole thing was like a dick measuring contest, to put it bluntly.
Yep.
Like the second they walked in, it was all.
My thing is, can anyone explain to me his motivation other than, oh, it's these two going to sit here and try to make a fool out of me? Like, what is your actual reasoning behind being this level of dick?
I think just because of the question.
I think I've struggled with this a lot. If he was being like a dick on purpose, or is he just a dick? And where I came to was I think he's trying very hard to project this. I'm not a captain like either the one of you. I don't like the way that you were captains. And so therefore I'm going to show you from the moment you step on my ship, I'm a different guy. I'm not there. I'm not in my uniform. I'm sending like my number one with nobody else. I mean, on the Enterprise, they would always send, like, it might be O'Brien, but they would send someone.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the whole dinner scene, I was going back and forth between, is he just this kind of dicky person, or is he specifically being mean to them?
Oh, dude, out the gate, he's being mean to them.
Yeah, right from the beginning.
Out the gate, he's like, sorry, your reputation's preceded you so far in advance. I figured I'd just start. And I was like,
Yeah. You want your own wine. I prefer a different kind.
You kind of hit on something that I've been thinking about, Mr. Know-It-All, which is when you think about it, sure, this is 20 years later or whatever, right. Picard and Riker are literal Starfleet legends. They've got these larger than life reputations, good or bad. Everybody knows them. They're like celebrities, you know. In a way, 7 of 9, his first officer, is a celebrity as the first ex-Borg in the fleet. So he's kind of, I think he is generally a dick because he's softly rude to 7 the whole time. Like he's downright insulting. But I think
the way he talks to 7. Yeah.
I think he's overcompensating. Like he's overcompensating in a way, like male posturing, because he feels like he can't live up to the reputation they have. So he's doing, he's trying to be the big man. Like it seems a
I
bit
believe
like
it. I believe it.
overcompensating.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I
Me,
talk
just-
about how he treats 7 of 9 for a moment?
Yeah, go for it.
Can we?
Let's-
I was gonna say let's finish up just general bashing of Shaw,
Cool.
and then we'll get into that really specific topic.
Okay.
So my thing with Shaw is, but there's part of me that sits here and goes, is he wrong? Because on some level, he reminds me of Picard in those early Q days. In the early Q days, it was always my ship, my crew, leave my stuff. Like he's worried about his.
Yeah.
So he might on some level be like, look, you guys aren't going to bring your shenanigans here to my. Because I don't know what. Because I can. I had no problem seeing in my head. He gets this report and goes, wait, what? A secret inspection? Hold on, who? Hell no, they're not doing nothing crazy in my ship. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like he's like, that's the mentality is like, these two are showing up and it's a surprise of some kind. Oh, I'm screwed. Something bad's going to happen. And that's why I did love in Dinner when he lays out all the things. We saw it in the trailer.
Yeah.
But when he's like, there's not going to be any crashing. No, we're not going to get any firefights. There's none of this. And you're just like,
do you
bro,
understand being a Starship
have you
captain
watched
then?
the show?
Yeah, that's the thing. I get the sense that he's like the captain that just hasn't experienced the universe stacking the deck against him like most of the other captains we've seen on screen. You have to assume that most, out of the hundreds or thousands of Starfleet ships that are in service at any given time, you've probably got 2 of them in some kind of weird other galactic crisis, but the other 998 are just going between point A and point B.
Risk.
So I feel like he's just that captain. He hasn't experienced the weirdness of the universe yet.
Diplomatic trinkets.
I mean, he's going after Picard, and honestly, the TNG crew is probably the most tame of all of the crew as far as like going off book. I mean, he must really have it in for Kirk then.
Never mind. Never mind Janeway.
Yeah.
Right? All of them. He's just like, you guys all are terrible. Get out of here, man. Anyway,
So we
all
have
right.
one
Shaw
really
also-
specific.
Judge you.
Go ahead.
I bet Shaw also only mates like every 10 years or so if he's feeling it.
That's being generous.
What was with the internet apparently had a big problem with his talking about with him using the colloquialism above my pay grade. And I'm like, because
I used it in Star Trek before, so why not?
Yeah, well, my whole thing is like we use colloquialisms today in our culture that aren't specific to today's time and place and whatnot, and probably have been lost to it. So that's probably to them just a thing you say. It's a
Mr. Know-it-all, you know you're the bee's knees.
See, who in the world knows where that came from? Come on, man. Absolutely.
So before we get
I know
to
she does. He does. I know he does. Sorry.
Before we get to what Del wanted to talk about, the last thing we had that was just general bashing of Shaw. He's not just a dick, but is he a bigger bag of dicks than Jellicoe?
Yes.
Yeah.
He breaks protocol because I can't see Jellicoe pulling something like insulting 7 of 9 so directly.
Because even when Jellicoe asked Troy to put on a proper uniform, he was very respectful about it.
Yeah,
he wasn't rude. Now the situation might have been uncomfortable for Troy, but it wasn't like he was being very, very professional. I'd like to have a professional ship. Can we change our attire to a match? He wasn't like a jerk about it. Whereas I think this guy would have been a wholesale jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean,
Let me tell you something.
He calls her ex-Borg. Like, seriously.
Yeah,
Jellicoe wouldn't do that. Jellicoe likes protocol too much. He's rude and he's abrupt, but he follows the book.
Yep.
We're not frozen. Go ahead.
I feel like Shaw is kind of a kid in a way, though, because he sleeps under the stars without his windows being blackened out. I think there's something about like cozy for him. And when he wakes up from all the like light coming off, he seems like really like upset that he's been woken at all. Like, and then to like find out what he comes to find out, it's a little funny for me seeing his anger ramp up like that.
He's going to have an aneurysm if he keeps going.
Yeah. He's a real Red Foreman, huh?
Yeah.
So it would be weird to have a commander of 9, but
Yes.
there's kind of a problem with the way that Shaw treats Seven/Commander Hansen. And I think Dell's going to make that pretty clear for us.
So, for the 5 people who don't already know me, because I'm so widely popular, I am a non-binary person who transitioned from being identified as female. There was a short period of time when I was genderqueer, but that's really because that was before when non-binary became the lexicon. And there's this, I don't know what to call it, a concept in the trans community called dead naming. And it's considered to be one of the worst things you can do to a trans person. For trans people or non-binary people or people in general who legally changed their name for one reason or another have gone through it's not an easy process to change your name legally, especially if you're changing both your first and last names. You have to basically prove that you're not doing it for fraud. But when you dead name a trans person, even the ones that are so inured to it that they get it all the time, they look exactly the way Seven of Nine did when she corrected Picard and Riker about calling her Seven of Nine and saying, no, that dick we were just talking about, yeah, he makes me go by Annika Hansen, which has never been a name she's been comfortable with. Not even just being called Annika. Like, that's always been a trigger thing for her. And I think it's partly just because this guy's not a very nice person. But I also think his mentioning of ex-Borgs and including Picard, who was a Borg for
5 minutes.
Right. And yet he is still as ex-Borg as Seven of Nine is, which is a completely different story. And again, it's very much like how some people, loop all trans people into one category, or even better yet, lump all queer people into one category. Or he's very specifically trying to shoehorn Picard in to show his distaste for the entire ex-Borg community and making sure that Picard knows that he is a member of this community. And in a way, strangely enough, I feel like this echoes a lot of the debate that's happening right now with drag queens and children. It's going to sound weird, but I think it's the same idea in that thinking about the idea of having a Borg as your first officer sounds a little wonky, but there's no reason why she can't hold the job. But once you throw the word ex-Borg into the conversation, everything changes. There's this guy who reads story time at the library. This is a good thing. Oh, he puts on a dress and makeup. Burn him. And I feel kind of similarly in the way how the show showed how Shaw, who has already been illustrated to not be a nice person, is also dead naming Seven of Nine. That's my point.
Well, it definitely speaks to the narrative I think that Star Trek's always had, which is commentary on the local, but through the lens of Star Trek. And I think so. I don't think that's a stretch. I think everything you just outlined is probably exactly the thought process. At least it's clearly illustrated. But I feel like, especially when you stop and think about the fact that you're right, Seven's never been partial to that name at all, and I'm sure it's documented as such. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, bro. Why you gotta? That level of flex is not necessary, and it just goes to even add to the bags of dicks that he is.
Well, she actually stated in Voyager that she doesn't associate with the name because he doesn't even remember being a child.
Right.
Like, she really doesn't have any memories pre-Borg.
I know this is inopportune, but my computer is throwing a fit, so I have to jump off for a second or two.
Okay.
But yeah, man, that was dude. That's a super insightful insight that I hadn't even really, and that moment I think thought of like that because I didn't really kind of understand that. But that makes sense, and it's so Star Trek, like that they would take something very relevant culturally. Everybody thinks everything has to be like the guy with as blatant as the guy with the black and white half painted face, and it doesn't always. Sometimes it's, you know what I mean. Sometimes it's just someone wanting to be referred as a different name, as something different, and respecting that's the decision that's being made in that moment. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I liked that. That whole thing was very, very, very poignant and very on topic as well. So
you just reminded me of that thing where William Shatner was saying, "When did Star Trek get so political?" And they pull up the black and white face guy, and they're like, "Buddy, you were there."
I love that movie. It's a great meme.
So we have a comment here, and this is something I've seen thrown around a little bit, that whether or not Shaw might have been one of the lower ranking loyalists to Admiral Layton back in the day.
Admiral Layton.
Was Admiral? It's right. He was one of our bad admirals, wasn't he?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, totally.
For me, it's confusing when I see his name because we had a well-known federal politician named Jack Layton for several years in Canada.
I know.
He's when people say Jack Layton, I automatically think the politician, not the admiral.
I love it.
Who knows? Maybe he was Jellicoe's protege.
Yeah, we had another comment here. Why did Captain Shaw not mention the early career of Jean-Luc Picard's?
Didn't mention. Even mentioned to Picard his by the book days on the Stargazer?
Probably because those aren't like very important to the history of Picard. Like those aren't things people write about very much, really.
Because we don't have that Lost Era show we need.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That's it.
Although we get a little bit at the end of the episode.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I like that Picard is. I like that Picard is thinking of himself though as like irreverent and a person who breaks rules when like for so much of his career all he wanted to be was a person who was very strict about the rules.
Yep.
I like the part where he says, "Shut it, Will."
Yes.
I'm like, did they put that in there just because we're missing a "Shut up, Wesley" moment? Or
Yeah,
something?
pretty much.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
It's
I
like,
totally
"Shut
thought
it,
that.
Will."
I totally thought the same thing.
Although I have to say, I didn't really like the way that Riker treated LaForge.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that was all so awkward. I had no idea why he felt it necessary to completely embarrass this young woman in front of her whole crew. Oh my word.
Oh, you're piloting the starship? You used to crash shuttle, didn't you?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
You used to poopy your diaper. We called you Poopy LaForge.
I wonder what they call Chakotay then. I mean, how many shuttles did that dude lose?
That's awesome. Yes.
He would be proud of that.
Riker really isn't one to talk. His wife got to pilot once, and she crashed the whole Enterprise.
I'm pretty sure Shaw brought that up.
Shaw
too.
even brought that up.
Yeah.
Chakotay would be proud of crashing the way the character from DuckTales is, whose name is escaping me for some reason.
Launchpad McQuack, brother.
Yeah.
You're in the right crowd here, baby.
I watched that whole new DuckTales. I can't remember
that theme song's gonna be in my head for a while.
Totally. No.
All right, moving on.
Well, to stay in the realm of Commander Hansen and Captain Shaw, in the end credits, we saw what looked like a write-up that was going to be done about 7. Do you think that she will be in Starfleet by the end of the season?
Hell
I
no.
wasn't sure she was going to be in Starfleet.
No, I do.
Episode.
I'm kind of surprised she's even in Starfleet, to be honest.
I think she will be. I think we're going to get to the end of the season. It's going to be one of those situations where they start out the proceedings by disciplining them with all the things they did that were off book, and then they're going to go through the things they achieved, and they saved the entire universe, and yada, 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 and they're being reinstated.
Hashtag Michael Burnham moments.
Totally. Yeah. Hashtag Michael Burnham moments. That's awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think she's going to survive and be in Starfleet at the end of it, only because she does better in a collective, and she's also got. And once you get past jerks like Shaw, the truth is Starfleet's been built on the adventurous and the people who are bold and go and do their things, and I think you'll find way more positive at the end of the day than negatives. And especially when their mission's all done, they're going to be like, oh, see, this is why it was important that Seven didn't obey you.
Yeah.
I like that Shaw mentions that he has run a tight ship for 5 years, as if those 5 years compared to Kirk's like lifetime of just invaluable experience as an admiral.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
All right, switching over to some Raffi and La Serena questions. Was it okay for Starfleet to put an ex-junkie into a role where they're buying drugs off the black market?
Well,
I actually did not think that was going to be a problem. I'll be quite honest. The entire time I was pretty sure she was putting on an act, doing it very well because obviously she's been there, she knows. But the only problem I had at the end of that scene was when like she flips open the communicator and like announces her entire freaking title before sending the message. Like, you're on this like undercover mission, right? Why are you saying you're like a Starfleet intelligence officer and give your full name? Like, you don't do that when you're sending a communication, much less when you're sending a secret one.
I don't do that when I'm sending a phone call.
For real.
Yeah.
I don't like the whole, to me, I think it's a little bit wrong that they put her in that situation. Cause I mean, I have friends who have overcome addictions, whether it be alcohol or drugs. And the number one thing they all share is they can't be in a situation where that's readily available to them because the temptation is too much. And it's basically as long as they're not put in a situation, they're okay. But as soon as they're in like, say, a bar or something, that's it. They can't deal with it. So to me, it seemed a little wrong.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of stuff that Hollywood has always gotten wrong in terms of just assuming things like, assuming, oh, well, if you're autistic, you must have some superpower or be brilliant, or if you have, if you're dealing with this, you're that. It's like it's easy to put forth the stereotype or the cliche. So in this instance, it's easy to be like, well, it's the mission was more important than the realities of addiction, and you're like, wait a minute, hold on, time out. I feel like an evolved, elevated culture like the Starfleet future was in the 25th century, as they so nicely and succinctly told us, which I loved, by the way. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like, why are we dealing with addiction on that level at all? Like, why haven't they invented the little pill that makes you not care? I'm kidding. I don't know.
Yeah. And like the whole situation is rife for relapse. She's on La Serena.
100%.
She's on her own, reporting to some faceless entity. And basically, it seems like she's just passing her time with memories of her kids.
And then the entity's like, oh, I understand. I do understand. And it's like, here's your service record with all the things that have happened wrong because of drug use, but now stay on mission. And you're like, wait a minute, that sucks.
Now, something I was already thinking in the episode, and then they flashed all of the reasons I was thinking it on screen about Raffi. This is exactly why she would never be in Starfleet intelligence. She's too much of a liability. Yeah, she's great at gathering intelligence, but she's a liability.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
And I wonder if they just didn't know what else to do with her.
You would think Starfleet intelligence would have some intelligence.
Does the rest of you feel like this whole scene was very reminiscent of Blade Runner, something that we don't really necessarily see in Star Trek as often?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Just needed to be raining.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking even like the lowest levels of Coruscant in Star Wars, where all the crimes and junkies and stuff are. Because I mean, she's talking to that Orion, and I mean, Orions in Starfleet are synonymous with criminal syndicates. So
I was getting a Mega City 1 from Dread vibe.
Oh, totally. Shut up. I love you. I love Mega City 1.
Dread.
Yeah, sorry.
We need another Carl Urban Dread. That needs to happen while he's still young enough.
Yes. Yes. I think he's already probably too old, to be honest.
Probably.
I love him. I have a huge man crush on Carl Urban.
Yeah, I want him to break himself for me. That would be incredible.
He's still got another season of The Boys to do yet.
I know. Let's do it. Sorry.
Yes, he does.
Right on.
It'd be like getting whatever his name is, Admiral Marcus, back to do another RoboCop.
That could go the Terminator route, though.
Why not? We got Harrison Ford reprising Indiana Jones, and the
Oh
guy's
my
like 80.
God, don't remind me.
Oh yeah.
but the de-aging looks so good, and I am such a shill for that. I'm like, give me all the things.
It's one thing if you're like what Star Trek's done with the de-aging. You de-age
Sure.
for like a scene. Okay, fine. But don't give me an entire movie or an entire series where it's just somebody de-aged.
Let's
Please,
go.
recast
No,
at that
I want
point.
one.
No.
I just want one thing though. And I don't know what that is, by the way. I'm not saying I want one thing and know what it is, but I feel like somebody like find some show, some series that never got their proper like send off and DH the hell out of it and just give them the ending, man. Just give some like Sliders. Give me Sliders, okay? Give me one and like use the stuff to DH. What's his face? Jerry O'Connell and whatnot. Let's go.
See,
Sorry.
this is where I am obviously an old person because the very first show that came to my mind was Leave It to Beaver. And then I realized we can de-age people, but we can't really bring them back from the dead unless we recreate them whole cloth.
Well, we can. What
I don't
was
know.
that movie that came out recently that used footage from like the 60s or 70s of somebody
Oh my gosh!
and like used it to make an AI deepfake version of them? I can't remember what the movie was. It was fairly
There's a
recent.
couple of those.
If you want
I know-
one to get a send off, why not Quantum Leap, the reboot?
Right?
Steve?
Oh my! Yeah, I haven't seen the reboot.
I haven't seen the
but-
reboot.
My mom is a huge Quantum Leap fan. Like it was
Yeah.
always on the TV when I was really little, and she watched exactly one episode, and she's like, "I can't stand it." She said because she
too bad.
said there's no the screen chemistry you had between Bakula and Dean Stockwell. There's not the same screen chemistry between the new actors. It's
No,
a case
because
of decent
they're trying to
actors.
make them an actual relationship.
Yeah, they
At
don't
the same
play off-
time, it like
Super contrived.
I hate it when people judge on the first episode, a first season of something. Would any of us have watched
Yeah.
TNG if the first season of TNG was what the rest of the show was?
Oof.
I wouldn't. Anyway,
I probably wouldn't, honestly.
so the other question we had revolving around Raffi and La Serena, do you think we'll see a Rios hologram before the end of the season, just as like, here's a cameo?
I want one so bad.
Oh,
I hope so.
Just have someone turn it on by accident and have it be his face, like him. It would just be like they just go to use the activate emergency hologram, whatever, and it's him, and like, oh my god, like
Well, better yet, if they all showed up, like activate emergency,
Totally.
and they all show up.
surrounded by
Yes.
Rios.
This is Star Trek, so if the hologram shows up, it'll probably take over the ship or something.
Probably,
right.
and they have to delete it.
Because I mean, Star
love-
Trek has a thing about holograms gone bad.
I know. I
love
made this
pulling
note.
that
I'll
card
watch all
out.
those episodes. Getting ready for Picard, I was like, we watched all of those. We watched everyone that felt like it was supposed to be relevant to what was going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, there you go. Look at it. Do
I
it,
forgot.
bro.
We're talking about Picard.
I
Oh
love it.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Of course you do.
Did you hear the beat music?
Yeah.
That's right. Totally like, here we go. You're like, wait a minute. What's going on there? Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So-
That's
Also
on
in
me.
the La Serena scenes, as Raffi's doing some digging,
La Serena scenes are awesome.
one of the things we see is Voyager B. Now, this is set about 20 years after where we're at in Prodigy, where we're just, in theory, getting a Voyager A commissioned.
Yeah.
Do you think we might see another hero ship destroyed in Prodigy?
I hope so.
It's like explosions.
I like watching ships get destroyed.
Stop it.
I could see it. A lot of kids shows don't really have kids shows don't really have a thing about destroying stuff. They'll just destroy it and move on.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
And I mean, show me a kid, especially boys, who don't want to see something blow up.
Absolutely. That's true. The fact that you can go to a place and fire an actual tank up in Tennessee or somewhere nearby, like 2 hours away. It's a giant, like the guy has an old retired tank that you're allowed to get in it and basically just push the button and shoot off a giant, and like let's go. That's the one time when like my like every instinct in me that's primal and quote unquote a dude is like, it's like, yes, blow things up, blast. Oh, I love
Fire!
it. Love it. Love it.
Fire!
Blow the warp core.
Blow the warp. Can I eject the warp core, please?
Those are some of my most cherished Star Trek moments. Ejecting the warp core.
Let's go.
Or all the times the ejection systems failed in the Galaxy class. Every single time, not once was it online there.
Can someone please just fix that system? Can we just...
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I put it in the worst ship class designs. Because, I mean, seriously, if you can't eject the warp core when you need to every single time that becomes a thing, that's a problem.
Somebody's sleeping on the maintenance shift.
Oh, Brian.
Nice.
No, he goes to Deep Space Nine. He's exempt then.
Oh, okay.
What do you guys, so along those same lines, what do you guys think about the Voyager, the Enterprise F already being slated for decommissioning? Because, I mean, let's think about this. The Galaxy class was commissioned, the D was commissioned in the early 2360s.
Yep.
And then we have the Sovereign class in the 80s. And then, what is this, the Olympic class, I believe? We don't know when it was commissioned, but it's already within 25 years being decommissioned.
Hey, people aren't signing up for Starfleet like they used to. You know, you can't fill up those fat ones anymore. You know what I'm saying?
We have fleet of defiance. That's all we want now. Just a 40 people script. Let's go.
I'm going to be on the
Anything but
Enterprise.
that one.
That's awesome.
Do you guys think that the show is too dark? And by that, I mean the lighting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just turn all my lights down and maybe you'll barely see the outline edge lighting on me. And that's pretty much what they've done. And I'm like, why?
Well,
Stop it.
Controversial opinion, since I don't like bright lighting, I'm actually very okay with it. And it feels very pulpy to me in a way I like. I don't know if that's going to keep paying off, but I don't know. It felt like it had enough mood for me to get by with that. I do recognize that it's probably a little too dark all the time. Like, it's going to get monotonous if we keep doing this. But I did feel like it added an edge to things. I like it when Star Trek's a little darker.
So I love, like, if you watch Strange New Worlds, I feel like does the balance really well, which is on the periphery. It's a little bit darker framing, but then like in the middle where people are talking and doing stuff, they're well lit. Because my problem was you literally had Seven, Picard, and Riker walk out into the center of the bridge, and they looked backlit by the hallway.
That bridge.
And I'm like, bro, shine a light. Can someone turn one of these on? Is what I'd be like. How about that big thing in the middle? Can we turn that guy on? Anything?
Deep Space Nine did it really well too, the balance. Because when they're in the center in ops, it's well lit, even though it's a dark show, it's well lit. But then on the periphery, Cisco's office, that kind of thing is darker.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I love that.
It plays with the mood more. Like when it's always dark all the time, you're always feeling this sense of like anxiety and fear. Whereas if it were to balance light and dark elements, then it would keep you less on your toes per se. They would let you relax a little bit and be like, oh, this lighting is telling me that nothing bad is going to happen in the next 5 minutes, which of course is when something bad will happen, but at least you're relaxed when it does.
Yeah. It needs to be a little bit more well lit though. I can't help but thinking like when Voyager went to red alert, the bridge got darker. And if they tried doing that on the Titan, like they go to red alert and nobody's gonna be able to see anything.
Or you mean that like black light red setting where it's all red lighting?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I gotta say though, I'm very happy whenever a Star
notice?
Trek series doesn't blind me like an Abrams production.
No, totally legit. That's legit. Did you guys? I love just. Have you guys noticed? And I saw in some production stills better, but like the screens don't. Nothing is right angle like flat anymore. They curve. So from the countertop, it curves, and I'm like, this looks so sci-fi. Like that is so dope. And I think they're not only curved. I think they're actual video that you can touch. Like they're touch screens, so things will happen when people, even that's just happen visually. But like if you touch a thing, it lights up or does a thing. I'm like, that is awesome. We've come to the point where when now production people can really envision what sci-fi looks like, whereas before it was just L cars cut out of plexiglass and whatnot. So yeah,
they used to tap on those screens like Peter Parker would tap on a like numberless keyboard in Spider-Man the Animated Series. You know?
Totally. Yeah, man, absolutely. Except Brent Spiner. I always love Brent Spiner's sort of terminal. He always made it look like he was actually like his fingers were doing something, where other people just sit there and do the like twitch their fingers. He's like reaching and like doing stuff.
Lovely little life.
Where are you?
Such a great role.
That's actually one of my favorite scenes with him, is when he's doing that.
That's awesome.
Yes,
Well, let's
that's
use
good
that
track
as-
comedy. I like that stuff.
Let's use that as a segue to one of our other questions. What did you think of the music cues in this? This was wow. Blend of literally,
It
I
felt
think,
like
every
listening to a
single
Tom
movie.
Waits album almost.
It feels like Terry Metalis was like, all right, I need to know everything I have permission and license to use because we are going to nostalgia the hell out of this thing. From the in the 25th century, which I immediately was like, what am I watching? Wrath of Khan? What's going on here? That's awesome. And then to just the music, like when he's talking to Laris, I had just watched the night before Insurrection, so I was like, oh wait, that's Insurrection music when they're doing the fancy little like time thingy, and then it was so great. I was a huge fan of the music cues because it's like I'm okay with the handling when it's proper. I'm not okay with handling when I feel forced. Like if you're gonna like, don't be like, and now here's the sad music because you're supposed to be sad. You know what I mean? Like make me feel sad, and then the music's helping that moment. But like but I hate it when they handled me. This was not that. This was good. I liked it.
I actually liked all the music cues because I'm like, okay, that's that soundtrack. That's that soundtrack. That's that soundtrack.
Yeah.
My only beef with the music was the fact that they, like I said before the show, that they had Shaw listening to Chopin, which doesn't make sense. He should be listening to Bach because Bach is structured. Bach is Bach. I mean, it's mathematical. It's structured. It follows form. It doesn't deviate. Whereas Chopin is all rubato and playing freely and deviates quite a bit. I mean, you'll get 10 people playing Bach and they'll all play Bach the same way, but you'll get 10 people playing Chopin and they'll all play it different. So that part didn't really fit.
Awesome.
Yeah, but Shaw eats blue steak. You can't trust him.
I hate you so much.
Yeah,
I was so
the only
disgusted
weird
by
thing,
that.
I thought his
I'll
steak
say
was going to
something
get up
about
and
that
walk
in a
away.
second.
It was so raw.
The only thing I find weird with the music that we found out, like you and I, Eve, we tried to figure out what that piece in the end credits is, and at first you're like, it's the TNG TMP theme, but it comes to find out it's Pop Goes the Weasel. Why? Is there some kind of piece of trivia there that they're foreshadowing? Because there is a lot of foreshadowing in those end credits.
Always, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Why Pop
Kind of.
Go the Weasel though?
A Jack in the Box.
Maybe the weasel is like a metaphor for the bad
I think the weasel is Moriarty.
I think the weasel is Pauly Shore.
Thank you for being my age.
I think you might do
I
like
can't wait.
a Jack in the
for him
Box
to
moment. Like,
transport onto the bridge.
The only connection it has to Trek, though, like Pop Goes the Weasel is what Data was trying to whistle on the holodeck the first time he met Riker. But why is that connected to this?
Right.
You're right.
and Data
That always stuck with me because at the end of Nemesis, at Data's funeral, Riker couldn't remember what he was whistling. Like, I yelled that at the screen when he said that.
Did you really?
Yeah, that makes a lot
Yes.
more sense. Because there's a ton of little encounter at Farpoint moments, between
Yes.
having a LaForge at the helm, in the intro scene with Bev, when it's reading the log from Best of Both Worlds on screen, is the log that he's dictating at the very beginning of Encounter at Farpoint as the camera pushes all the way in.
Mhm.
I love all those end credits things.
Could be a way to
That was
foreshadow
beautiful.
lore if it's
Do you-
because Data was whistling it.
It's true.
Could be a way to foreshadow lore, and Lore was
That's a
a
good
Jack
point.
in the Box. They assumed when they first found Lore that he was like Data, and it turns out he wasn't.
Yep.
So do you guys think that next week the end credits will be the intro credits?
I was kind of surprised
That's a
there weren't
great-
intro credits. Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't know.
And I think the only reason they did it like that is because there is a bunch of little like foreshadowing moments and things that you can get out of it if you've already
yeah.
seen the episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be some kind of genetic component to something because they showed DNA sequences.
Yeah.
And then
Isn't
there's
that the sci-fi
I
that
really
lots of
enjoyed
stuff,
the final
and
shot, by
that
the way.
musical score and
Yep. I think we only had one or two more questions here.
We're going
Okay,
to talk about
so-
that weird person over your shoulder.
That's exactly this guy over here. Do you think that this random ensign that Riker inspects upon first boarding the Titan will come back as part of the villains, which for now
Yes.
I'm calling
Yeah.
the God, I lost my train of thought. The soulless minions of orthodoxy.
Nice.
That's what I'm calling them
Nice.
for now.
I like it.
yeah, something's going on there because you got the ensign eyeing them. There was somebody watching Riker and Picard while they were talking in the bar. The
Yeah.
guy that took
Yeah,
the-
dude. I'm glad I'm not crazy. I caught that too. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, is that guy watching them? And my wife
Oh,
was
that
like,
guy's watching
yeah,
them.
I told you.
Yeah.
He was definitely watching them. Like,
And I'm not in a way that extras do that they're not supposed to. Like,
No.
you know what I mean? 'Cause, like it looked like it was intentionally part of the thing.
Yeah.
Right on.
That was another thing that made it feel real pulpy for me. I liked that, like these little like people glancing at them and setting things up that way.
I just love seeing a good old fashioned Star Trek bar. Okay,
Yeah.
Star Wars doesn't have
Yeah.
Star Wars has way more bar stuff normally, but when Star
Yeah.
Trek does it, they do fun bars, man. You got the one that McCoy was in when he comes back to Earth after getting Spock's Katra. You have the one that Scotty from the 2009 ones when he's hanging out in, which is just loud music. It's like anytime they show a bar in Star Trek, it's a happening time.
Yeah.
Corpse
It's
Bar.
Speaking of which,
Something is going to happen there. Like in the end credits, one of the things was like it looked like somebody was initiating a holodeck program of 10 forward.
The
Yeah.
LA version of 10 Forward specifically.
it said LA
with
too, that's right.
safety's off.
Let's go.
Was that
You guys.
there was at some point they brought up some piece of software. It might have been the holodeck programming that had a sad emoji, like a
Sad emoji.
semicolon
Missed it.
closed.
Oh, okay.
parenthesis. I'm gonna have to go back and make sure I'm not making this up because I was on cold medicine at the time.
There were in that hologram one. There are some semicolons in it.
Maybe I
as
just
remember,
but it looked like a sad face to me.
You can make it up. Everything's made up.
It
The
might
points don't
be.
matter.
Yeah, we don't have any more regular questions. Does anybody else have anything they want to specifically talk about here?
I loved the idea of Raffi's mission, the one that you got written over your head.
Oh
First,
yeah,
how it shook out because I'm kind of a major Rachel Garrett stan. So just super happy that there was a statue to her somewhere, and then had to watch it get destroyed.
I know.
Yeah, I
Dude.
love that you can see the little statue in there if you look when
How did we
everything
miss
goes down.
that? What was that weapon?
That was
It's
an awesome
looks like a
effect.
giant
It was-
portal gun, but yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It was a port. I was telling.
It
I was
was
telling
Portal.
you, I was like, it just sucked down that entire city block, and then it cuts, and I'm like,
Dumped it.
no, and then dumps it over here. I was like, what?
I
How
will
did-
say one thing that got me was Beverly
that was-
Crusher's rifle.
yeah.
How it loudly says "power cell depleted." I'm like, yes, that's exactly what you want on a weapon announcing your location.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm of two mindsets about what happened there. For one, I do actually like that it's not like the infinite bullet cliche.
Yeah.
For
Go.
once, because we've heard about changing power cells and phasers, but we've never had to see it happen. But what's with the cocking and the constant cocking? Like, you have to cock it once, but then she goes and like vaporizes that dude and she cocks it again. Why?
Because
Data
it
had
looks
one that
cool.
Data
Yeah,
had one that
yeah,
you
I
did
get
that
that.
with
She doesn't care about protecting life, apparently.
in First Contact. Data had that where he.
Yeah, I
doesn't-
know, but I still don't think it makes sense, and especially when you cock it a second time. I hate that in scenes. It's like, you've already fired the weapon. If you haven't reloaded it, you don't need to recock it. You've actively kicked out a shell.
Yeah, true
True.
story.
I just really didn't like that it loudly announces it. Like, there's got to
That
be a
too.
better way.
Yeah.
I have no more bullets. I'm also in the corner underneath this box. Please get me now.
You have no more bullets, and
Hey.
which will probably mean you die soon because they hurt me. Jeez.
Now,
Yeah.
now listen here. If we weren't supporting anti-gun laws, then we wouldn't have guns announcing these things. You understand? This is all the fault of the politicians.
So real quick, I'm going to the comments real quick. There was a question by Dustin D, who he said it's almost like the Starfleet officers spent a bit too much in the yesterday's Enterprise universe and the lighting they brought down with them. I'm like, that's
Ooh,
exactly right.
Not wrong.
Remember how we thought that was so dramatic lighting back then? We're like, ooh, it's another universe. They have dramatic lighting, and now we're in the other universe with dramatic lighting. So yeah, man, that's awesome. Sorry, I'm just now noticing there was all these. It's so hard to see the little icon. I didn't even catch it, and I was like, oh wait, there's all these questions. And that
Yeah, I
question
missed
was
a
like,
bunch of
comment.
questions.
No,
I
it's
do-
okay. I just want to make sure I
Some of them
figured.
I can't even really quite understand what some of the questions.
I do like that they didn't bring in all of the old cast right away, because
Mm.
that would feel too
Mhm.
forced.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like,
I
it
do
would
agree
be all of a sudden like, okay, so we're watching a reunion show. Like,
with that.
Yeah, we get to kind of meter this out and get our pleasures as slower drip.
So, do we think these uniforms are? I'm not talking about the ones we see like Shaw and them wearing. We know those are the uniforms. What are the other ones that we see them with, like a leather jacket? Are those like Commodore outfits? Like what? At what point does Star Trek say, you know what you need? A leather jacket version of your uniform?
Fair point.
It makes
for
sense.
one,
Different
support all
environments.
leather jacket supremacy.
I feel like they've had suede jackets before, though.
I was thinking about the Picard one where it had the black
Yeah.
little ribbing at the top.
Season
and it was
5
like
and
a-
6.
Yeah, and he wore the gray shirt underneath.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the closest thing I can think to one. But anyway,
speaking of uniforms,
tell you.
I ran across this silly YouTube this week, and it was Picard's comm badge popping off his uniform every time he does the Picard maneuver.
so I've switched to pins and pins.
Yeah.
My other uniform has magnets because I kept doing that and it would go blink, and I was like, so yeah, man. I'm going back to good old fashioned pins. Damn all the magnets.
Let me tell you something. If I was an admiral, I'd be so angry if they gave me a suede jacket as like a present. Like, this thing will be ruined in the rain. Why did you give me this piece of crap?
That's awesome. Right on. Man, I'll tell you what. I didn't freeze, I promise. See, I purposely did an over animated background for that reason, so that if I'm standing still, you guys can still see that like something's moving. So anyway.
Do you guys think we'll see Laris back this season, other than maybe the
Nope.
very end as usual?
Yeah, we'll see her at the very end when she's opining the fact that he's dead.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think so.
I agree.
No, he's gonna come back and they're gonna do the Lindy Hop like it's the Roaring Twice.
I
It'll be
will.
a good time. I'm looking forward to it. I love his big gramophone.
Absolutely. Let me talk this question out to everybody. What I have read recently, Terry Metalis talking about. He said he is very happy in this era, and and currently is like, if we're gonna, after Picard is done, I want to stay in this, tell stories in this era. Is that, are you guys excited? Does that excite you?
Yeah,
Yes
a
and
little
no.
bit. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
For me, it does, only because I feel like forever I wanted to know what was next. Picard started that conversation. Discovery leaped over that conversation, and I'm like, no. Come back. Stay here. Give me what happens here. I need to know, because this is technically my era of Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like, my dad wears a gold uniform. I keep up with whatever's going on currently. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I'm like, yay.
Yeah, I think one show would be perfect because there's so many different eras that we can explore. And I
agree.
What I don't want is like as much as the 90s were great that they kind of just played right off of each other and they were in the same succinct time line.
That's fair.
It would be good to have one.
Sure.
But there are so many other great eras in Trek that we don't know anything about.
Well, the other thing I feel like what's good, what gives you an opportunity is I feel like if you do something that happens in parallel, you get an opportunity to dip in and out of some of those old stories. So like if you're doing an Academy series of some kind, why don't you can set it in an earlier time period and overlap with events that have happened? You know what I mean? Which I think would be so interesting to see from an outsider's perspective. For example, like the trainees at the Academy who caused the death of that one individual in their shuttle accident and all that. You know, now imagine seeing that from the outside with a group of people who are in the Academy dealing with the repercussions of that kind of event. You know, I'm not saying that specific event or that specific storyline, but you get what I mean. The point is you could go in and out of events in canon and it'd be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Why not, bro? Why haven't they? You figure if he's as famous a person as they say he is, why haven't they come up with a ship for him yet?
He probably won't let him.
They're like, we'd like to commission a Picard. He's like, absolutely not.
I will not be a mythological figure for you to douse across your board.
You know, I mean, it might make sense going forward from right now, but up to this point, Picard has been a pariah, kind of, to Starfleet for the last 15 years.
What if they end this series christening a USS Picard?
That would be cool.
Like after he dies, that's the next time we see Laris is at the christening of the USS Picard.
That's perfect.
Oh, I would be bawling. You have no idea. I'd be a Brian mess.
I'll give you $5 if that happens, honestly.
Well,
I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen now.
They could also go the other way and have a USS Patrick Stewart because there's already a USS Kenneth Mitchell.
That's true.
And a USS Eisenberg.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Discovery mentioned specifically a Mitchell, so they could go that route and put the actor's name in instead. I mean, Patrick Stewart, as great as he is kind of halfway into the grave.
So everybody was saying that Terry Matalas named the planet after himself, and so then he posts a screenshot from Enterprise, and he goes, "No, another writer named it after me a long time ago."
I was going to say, but it's still named after him, isn't it? Because he was production assistant at that time.
Back then, yeah. So yeah. But I'm like, that's awesome. He's like, "No, man, I just decided to put it back in the world. That's all." And give it a fun apostrophe.
How about the one named after me?
That's what, because that's what you have to do. Remember, we talked about the couple weeks last week. You have to put an apostrophe, and instantly it's an alien language name. So it's the Talis. So.
It felt a little cheaper than like the Tatascori 9, which is poking fun, and that was funny. It seems a little cheap here, but only because it's already canon.
No,
it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But totally self-serving. I don't care whether it's okay canon or not. It's 100% self-serving. It's like it's in my show. We're gonna use my planet.
Hey, if you do have a Star Trek series and you already have a planet named after you, that is just a wasted opportunity, let me tell you.
Absolutely. 100%. Oh, man. I love it.
Anybody else have any other great questions or topics before we close it out?
No, man.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to say I really enjoyed the little kiss Laris gave Picard. I thought that was very intimate. I like that intimacy has developed between them.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes, but it felt like grandma kissing. Like it was because it was that whole I'm an older act. Like you're pushing because you're older. You're not sitting here doing full lip lung, the whole kissing. You know what I'm saying? So just seeing them do the stately, I'm kissing. I was like, right on, y'all. Go ahead.
It came across more maternal to me.
Yes, I said that Mrs. Know-It-All.
Yeah, because she's kind of his caretaker at this point. I mean,
Mom, caretaker.
It's because because I mean, that's how I think of her as kind of like his caretaker. So.
Yeah,
I didn't even look at it that way, so now I just feel weird.
Now you can't look at it that way.
Well, I have a friend
Go
who
ahead.
relies on caretakers, so that's probably why I saw it that way, because I have a friend who relies on that.
Totally fair.
Yeah, one more thing that just reminded me of, toward lending itself towards some credence of we're not going to see Picard make it out at the end of the season. When he wants to give that painting to Geordi, it almost feels like I'm bequeathing this
True.
moment.
Yeah.
See, it's so
I
weird
thought the
because
same
of someone who has a mental health history. That's supposed to be a huge sign of suicide, is when you start giving away your most treasured items. Unless you are like diagnosed with a terminal disease, but otherwise, which Picard is kind of, but not, but kind of. I think it may be he's ready to end, whether or not it's death or the deconstruction of his fake body, which we never bring up, or something else. He's ready for something to end.
I mean, at this point, he should be already diagnosed as terminally old. Like, he's that. I feel bad for
It's a
the guy.
question because they said that I can't remember the word for it. Asthmatic syndrome.
Aromatic syndrome, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They said that it's still present even though he's in an android body,
did?
but I'm very
was that?
confused by that.
No,
But
because
didn't they in second season Picard when he was
No,
in? No, okay, maybe I'm
because
wrong.
very
I'm wrong.
specifically one of the first things when he wakes up and they have the conversation with him about here's your new body, here are the care instructions. They say that one of the first things he asks is, "So it's gone?" And they're like, and then everybody just nods their head. So he doesn't have
Right.
that anymore,
Okay.
unless I missed something in season 2.
No, I the way you outlined it is how I was about to. So I think you're right. I think it's exactly right.
Okay.
I love the fact that I'm the validator for you. You said it the way I would say it. That means it's right.
I just noticed something. We were
Go ahead.
talking about how dark the show is in Dustin's background.
Right.
It is
Yeah.
very dark.
That's
It's
random.
very dark. You're,
It's
yeah,
so dark.
Literally in Photoshop, he has to brighten them up.
For the actual thumbnail, it is brighter than this one.
Oh, wow.
I've been starting to brighten and add extra saturation because the cards just don't turn out when they're this dark.
Zoom in and
Yeah.
enhance.
I mean, Beverly Crusher looks kind of like a ghost.
Oh my gosh, she totally
It's
does.
about right now to
Yeah,
realize
one more
Victor's
thing on the
more-
topic. We were talking about lighting earlier, and season. Does anybody think that it's darker this season because it's a contrast to last season that was the most natural light and brightest season of Star Trek we ever got?
I could totally see that. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
We got to bounce back because it's we're too bright. Turn the lights down. You know? Computer, drop the lights by 20%. You know that whole thing.
As long as they don't bring in lens flares.
No
Yeah.
kidding. Stop
There's
shooting.
they
Let's make
were in
sure.
Discovery. I haven't seen any. I haven't noticed any in Picard yet.
They
I know what
have a
happened.
couple in Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds has a
Mhm.
one, which I don't mind. I like Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is doing everything perfect, so I have no corrections for them. I have no notes.
That
Yeah.
2 or 3 lens flare. Okay, cool. That's realistic. But when you
Right.
go for, what was it, 700 something in the first Star
Oh
Trek
yeah, no.
movie?
Oh, they had people whose jobs it was just to shoot
To
a
count.
laser pointer at the camera.
Yep.
Oh my god.
I think I know why this season is so dark. They're working off the Batman the Animated Series color palette. Using nothing but
Totally.
black
You
paper.
swear it's inverted. You start with black instead of white and build on it. Like everything. Yeah, bro. I love it. I love it.
It's a lot easier to build.
All
I don't know,
right.
man. I had a lot of fun with this. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I can't wait to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
seriously,
This was fun.
This is super great.
Yeah, this was
Don't
good.
get me
Come
wrong.
back.
I love our out of season talk, but in season talk feels so much more like I get to share the show with my friends. You know?
That's pretty much it. That's what we're here for, and it's
That's awesome.
we enjoy
This is
having
so
people
happy.
that
This makes me so
enjoy coming into the comments with us.
Ha!
It says 4 lights. That's great.
You win.
Oh,
You
good.
win.
All
Oh my
right.
On
gosh.
the internet.
Oakland wins.
On that note of winning the internets today, I'd like to thank all of my co-hosts for coming and sitting here on a Saturday morning with us on Buffer Time. If you've enjoyed your time with us, please consider a like and subscribe below. It helps tremendously.
Or even just leave us a
Otherwise-
comment to let us know that we're doing well.
Mhm.
We're
I'm
here.
down.
And we like showing them when you have some great questions to help us chime in on. Otherwise, we're going to see you again here in this same time slot, 11 a.m. Eastern, next Saturday, talking about episode 2. Until then, live long and prosper.